yeah, if you think you're going to do it in your own strength, then you know what? Yeah, you can do it.
COVID, it's been helping people move their businesses from offline or brick and mortar to online.
Systems are more important than skills as an entrepreneur today.
It's totally okay to reinvent yourself multiple times, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Welcome to Profitable Coaching Conversations with Wendy-Y-Bailey. If you're a coach, speaker, or industry expert, you're in the right place for sales and marketing wisdom and insight to grow your coaching business. Now, here's your host, Income Acceleration Mentor, Wendy-Y-Bailey.
Hey, everybody, and welcome again to Profitable Coaching Conversations. I'm so excited about today's guest on this episode, Brian J. Oles. That's his full name. That's his legal name, as they say. But I got to tell you, I'm excited to chat with this gentleman because I remember a few years ago, I connected with him on Twitter. And he was just starting the phenomenal organization that is booming and thriving today, the Black Speakers Network. And the Black Speakers Network, or BSN, is a member-based professional speaker development and empowerment company. It's his vision. It's his brainchild. I know it's his baby. I'm excited to get into the conversation with you. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thank you so much, Wendy Y. I appreciate you, and hello to everyone within the sound of our voice. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for creating such an incredible platform.
Awesome. And I knew you had to be a part of it. Like, I handpicked the first 20 guests, and you were in that first 10, I think, that I selected. Yeah. I pay attention to things, and I think that's how a lot of people are in the marketplace. They see you, they kind of follow you to see what's going on with you. And then when something miraculous or amazing happens that they see, they're like, oh, let me really pay closer attention to what they're doing over here.
Absolutely. That's kind
of how it was for me.
Listen, I know we go way back like car seats, Wendy, and I'm excited about that. And,
I love it, like car seats, huh? Haven't heard that one before, but that's cool. So tell us about how you started, and I kind of want to start with even before the BSN, right? What brought you to the space of I want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so guess what? I mean, if you had been sitting next to me in a small classroom in 2006, Morgan State University, Baltimore, right down the road, you would have watched as I stood up, walked to the front of the room, and prepared to deliver my very first speech in Toastmasters. And so, Wendy, you're probably familiar with Toastmasters.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anyone's listening is not, Toastmasters is an organization that's focused on helping you develop your public speaking skills. And so for myself, a person that is a certified card carrying introvert, I have the card in my wallet. And at the time in 2006, Wendy, I couldn't lead two people in silent prayer, let alone lead an audience to do anything. And so as I stood in front of that room preparing to deliver my very first presentation, a couple things were happening to me physically. I had the sweaty palms.
Yes. I was going to say you were petrified because it was your first and it was a whole new experience that you were afraid of. Yeah.
Well, being petrified actually would have helped in my particular case, because the other physical thing that happened is I started pacing back and forth during my presentation. And someone, I don't know who it was, Wendy, made the mistake of leaving the room. The door to the room, I almost walked out of the room in my first presentation. So all of this stuff is happening, sweaty palms, shaking voice, but I eventually wrap up my presentation and I noticed three things. Number one, I was still alive, so that was awesome. Number two, everyone in the room was clapping. And later on, I learned that Toastmasters kind of has a reputation. Like, Toastmasters is a little bit like church. We're going to clap for everything. Like, if you bring your lunch to the meeting, you're probably going to get a round of applause. But it made me feel good at the time. But the third thing and most important thing I realized, Wendy, is that I just survived and thrived in my first presentation. And if I could deliver one, I could deliver two. And two turned into four, four turned into 8. I delivered my first 10 speeches. And I realized that there was this entire world of speaking, let alone professional speaking, that I was yet to tap into. And through Toastmasters, I was able to do that. But like you said in the beginning of the story, my dream as a kid was to not be a speaker, not to be an entrepreneur. My dream as a kid was to be a aerospace engineer. And so,
okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I was the kid sitting on the floor watching the NASA space shuttle launches. And I was like, wow, I want to be a part of that. And so I set on this path to be an engineer. And by the time I had made it to Morgan, the only thing standing in my way was a little class called Calculus 2.
Yeah, there's math to the science of aerospace. Absolutely.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I said, let me just go see what the School of Business is talking about. But I never came back. And so at that point, as a lot of people listening to this right now, you may have at one point in your life felt lost or just not sure what direction you were going to take. Like, door A is closed, but you're not sure what B represents or where that leads. And so that's really the path that I was on in 2006 when I did join Toastmasters, and discovering this world of speaking is ultimately what led to Black Speakers Network several years later.
Yeah, I think it's a great story. I think a lot of people start out on a particular path, and what happens is they go off on tangents. Obstacles keep them from going in certain spaces. And after a while, most people find themselves. But what I've learned in my 18 years of being in business is you've got to pay attention to what those tangents teach you, because they may seem like you're off the beaten path, but they're really opening a door for you to observe something else or incorporate something else into your world or your business. So I know that you were a parallelpreneur or a dualpreneur. You were working full time when you actually launched the BSN. So what was that like first? And then when did you make the decision, okay, I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur? So what was it like doing both first?
Yeah. First of all, I love that term. What is it called? Parallelpreneur?
Parallelpreneur. So you're doing your full-time 9 to 5 and you got your business and they're running parallel.
Yeah. Trademark that if it's not already taken.
It's probably taken. I've heard it. So many other people say it.
But yeah, so for me, when I left Morgan, I actually started. I'm a millennial, but I'm at the upper end of the millennial. But
you're well into your 30s. Is that what you're telling us? You're well
absolutely, into your 30s? Absolutely, yeah. Class of 1984, right here. In terms of. But, what's interesting is that I found, so I was lost. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I came across a company. Actually, a friend of mine who was in college started at the company. And they said, hey, go talk to Laura. She's just started at this staffing recruiting firm, and we think they're hiring.
Okay.
And so I interviewed, and I got a call back the same day, the very day that I interviewed. By the time I got back to campus, I had a job offer to start at an entry-level role.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
That means you interview well, It was great. And I attribute, Toastmasters to a part of that too, because interview skills, speaking, it's all tied together. And so I was able to present really well. And so I started my professional career a week before I walked across stage at Morgan State University. And I stayed with that company, Wendy, for 11 years. Wow.
One company.
That's a long time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I calculated it, and it was something like I pulled into and out of that driveway something like 3,000 times. So ultimately, I came in with the ambition to further my speaking career. I wasn't exactly sure what that looked like, but what I famously did was, so I started in finance. So I was doing accounts receivable. So I was like a glorified bill collector, but for companies, which is interesting. But then my goal was to get into the training department. And that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to speak. I wanted to train. And so someone took me to lunch one day and they said, hey, you want to be a trainer? Do you even know what that means? I was like, yeah, you just stand in front of the classroom and say words and draw on with the small markers. Is
that how you describe training? Okay.
That was my thought. And they was like, well, that's what most people see. And so Wendy, you know how the iceberg, there's 20% sticking outside the top and there's the bottom 80%. Well, most people never see the 80% when it comes to training and instruction. And so there's an entire body called instructional design, adult learning. Training has to be developed. And so when I realized that, I said, wow, this is much more than I thought. And I actually went back to school to be on a master's track to learn instructional design and adult learning. So that whole 11 years, I was trying to actually become a corporate trainer, which I did. I got promoted into that role, and I was
congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was fun. It was exciting. I was doing my dream job. We were dropping knowledge on people on a weekly basis, and it was really cool. But I knew that there was a lot more for me. And BSN wasn't my first company. While I was at that organization, I was already hosting professional development workshops and seminars in the Baltimore area under another brand called Skills. And so, with a Z? So it was sharing knowledge and information for lifelong success. And an
acronym. I love a good acronym. That's great.
I'm always on the acronym train, Wendy. Like it's just easy for people to remember. But, that was my first business. We had very little business model to speak of, but that was the beginning. And then I left that alone for a few years when I got promoted to be a trainer. But ultimately, I knew that I wanted to create something. And Black Speakers Network, it was challenging in terms of, being a parallelpreneur, because the interesting thing is that everybody says like 9 to 5, but there's really not a 9 to 5. When you wake up in the morning, even if you get up at, like, in my case, 6 a.m., if it takes you an hour to get to work, you still got to get ready, like, do all the things.
A lot longer than 9 to 5.
It's a lot longer. So really, anything that I wanted to do, so I formally started BSN in 2016, but anything that I wanted to do to grow my business had to take place between like 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. or most likely, because I'm not a morning person, but it most likely happened between 7 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday was prime time. Lunchtime was prime time. So while everybody else is going to work, hanging out with their coworkers, trying to figure out what happened last night on Monday Night Football, I was making phone calls. I was responding to email. Like I was, trying to build a business. So I knew, and we have a membership model now, as you mentioned earlier, but I knew I had to craft the business around my job in order to even give myself a shot at positioning myself to make the transition to full-time entrepreneurship.
Wow. And what most people don't understand when you talk about the 9 to 5, there's time outside of that you have to devote to building the business, but that means you sacrifice a lot. Like I heard you sort of whisper it in the midst of what you said, but that's huge. When you're parallelpreneur or dualpreneur, you do have to sacrifice a lot. I was one of those people, Brian. I wasn't doing two things at once. I was voted off the island from my corporate job and decided I wasn't going back. So for me, I was full-time from day one. There's such a great sacrifice that you have to make, and you almost have to put on blinders when you're in that dual role that you described. I've heard you tell a story before where you say, I was backing out of the driveway, and when I backed out of the driveway, I knew it was time for me to move on. Can you share a little bit of that story with people?
Yeah, and so specifically there, I was talking about one of those 3,000 trips in and out of the parking lot at the company. And ultimately, everybody has like hard days at work. Somebody talked to you a way that you didn't appreciate, or, something went wrong that was outside of your control. Or even if it's a good day, if you're so tired, a lot of times we assign a lot of value to physical energy. And so it's like, hey, I'm awake, from 6 a.m. to, midnight. But the reality is there's only a certain amount of creative energy, and depending on your role, what you're doing throughout the day, that could be almost completely depleted. It certainly was for me in most cases. By the time I left work, I had very little creative energy, even if I still had physical energy to be able to build websites, to make phone calls, to send out emails, to build funnels, to write content, to, and sometimes I had to go speak, after work. Sometimes I had to speak during lunch break. And so, there was a lot of challenges between the time I pulled into that driveway and the time I pulled out. And ultimately, there's a shift that needs to take place, because oftentimes it's not even necessarily about the job. It has nothing to do with the people, or it has to do all with us. Like, it's the internal battle that we are fighting with ourselves, whether it's like imposter syndrome, or whether or not we're deserving. But I remember there was a hill that I would always look at, and part of my dream was to have Tuesdays. So my code name for transitioning out of corporate was Tuesdays at 2. Because I wanted to be able to do Tuesdays at 10.
Tuesdays at 10. Okay.
Because my goal, Wendy, was to be able to, have control over my calendar on a random Tuesday at 10 a.m. So whether that's walking through Target, sitting in a cafe, taking a client call, whatever it is, I wanted to be able to control that time. And so ultimately, when I was pulling in, looking over the knuckles and, deciding, whether or not, it's the right time to jump out the car and walk in, it was always that tension of, I know what I should be doing, but I also know what I have to do. And it's a lot, so I know a lot of entrepreneurs.
They're in contention. Those things are in contention when you're doing both.
Absolutely. All the time. And ultimately, what I learned is that, everybody has this mantra typically of, I just want to replace my income. I want to replace it. And, if I can just make X amount of money, then I can go on and do something else. And what I ultimately found is that, I didn't necessarily need to replace my income as much as I need to replace the systems that generated my income. And going into work every single day, you're trading time for money. That's a system. If you want to, escape the rat race, as Kiyosaki says, then you have to create a new way of thinking about how you are serving people to create the type of income that you want.
Yeah, nice. Very, very nice. I hope everyone heard that, because I'm telling you, if you don't understand the concept you just shared, you end up chasing money in a different form. And that's really not what it's about. That's really not what it's about. So tell us about the driveway. You pulled in, you saw your hand, the knuckles over the steering wheel. And what did you decide that made you, what came to mind for you that made you go, okay, it's time for me to do this full time?
Yeah, well, I was at an event. Part of my role, so I went from being the bill collector to doing training and development. I ultimately end up in a individual contributor role under a diversity and inclusion department. And so that was a phenomenal opportunity. I learned so much that I'm actually using now in my business. But, some of those campaigns, like, we were sometimes on for like 12 or 14 hours a day, getting stuff done. And so it was just one of those moments. Friday nights were really like my moments of clarity. And I can remember one Friday night specifically while I'm pulling out the driveway on my way home. I'm just like, man, how many times, am I going to do this? And ultimately, I had a friend named Jonathan Passley. Jonathan was already an entrepreneur. He was like you, Wendy. He was like, he got, what'd you call it? Voted off the island? Yeah, he got
voted off the island. Yeah.
He got voted off the island while he was still in college. And he started a very successful internet marketing and website design company. And we connected through Toastmasters. And he was like my first mentor as it relates to this whole internet marketing, digital entrepreneur space.
Sure. And
he said, Brian, you have all these great ideas, but, I never see you like really executing at the level that you can. Like, you never like pull the trigger. So that was echoing in my mind all day.
He issued a challenge to you. That's what that was. It was like, what you gonna do?
What you gonna do? And I see his lifestyle. I mean, at the time, he was still, he wasn't balling, but at least he had control over his time. And that's what I've always valued. Like, I've always valued control and freedom over money, but you need the money to get the freedom, and
it creates options for you.
Absolutely. So I remember I came home one night. It was a Friday evening. Fridays, I was at my creative peak, and it was always because I knew I had the maximum amount of time before I had to like go back to work. And so I created my first digital product on a Friday evening. I came home at 9:00 p.m., sat down at my computer in my little bedroom, and I started writing. And so I created my very first digital product. It was called 51 Online Resources to Find and Book Speaking Engagements. So
nice.
Thinking about speaking. At this point, I'd had BSN for many months. We just didn't have any business model. We didn't have any product. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna create a $5 product and see what happens. And so started at 9:00. By 2 a.m. Saturday morning, I was done. I scheduled the email to go out 8 a.m. I went to sleep, woke up the next morning, 8 a.m. email went out. By 8:05, I had $5 in my bank account.
All right. $5 is a start.
$5 was the start. And so that 5 by 8:15 turned into $15. By 8:30, I had, over $40. And then I realized, like, wow, if I could make, and that was the key thing, because it was like something that was in my head less than 12 hours ago has now converted without me going anywhere. These are people I hadn't met before in other states, other countries. Something that was in my head has been manifested into cash. So if I can make $5, I can make 50. If I can make 50, I can make 5,000. If I make 5,000, I can make.
You had a model. You're like, hey, I know how to generate income, a different source of income than my 9-to-5 job. And this is how I do it. Yeah.
That was the catalyst. That was it. That was, everybody talks about, making money while you sleep, and it's kind of like that, but mainly, you're changing the system. And today we have, 8 ways of generating income, and working on like 9, 10, and 11. So it's like that's the beginning. But now, mind you, that was nothing sexy about that initial thing.
Would you say it was just a plain document that had whatever many ways to book speaking gigs? And
it wasn't packaged. There was no branding. It was like, hey, here you go.
But see, I love the simplicity of that, because a lot of people feel like they can't get their stuff to the market until it's perfect. It has to look a certain way. It has to feel a certain way. But what you shared was clearly a value, because you sold so many in that first, hour, and probably even beyond that you put it out to your list. You put it to the marketplace.
Yeah. We made hundreds of dollars with that product before we finally sunsetted it and replaced it with something better. But but that's the thing. That's the catalyst. And more importantly, though, than the money and all of that, it's a shift. Like, the person that drove off of that parking lot Friday was not the same person that drove back in on Monday, because the sense of control, like when we had Delatoro on our webinar a couple weeks ago, and he was like, you can out earn any problem as an entrepreneur. You can, you gotta pay rent, you gotta, you got a medical bill, you got something you gotta do, like create an offer, sell it, solve a problem, and fill a need, and you can out earn the problem. And so that level of control, and you just think about it as an employee, that's something that, unless you're like a salesperson,
you don't get that.
Not at all.
Experience that at all. Yeah.
You gotta wait to quarterly review, cost of living increase, promotion, like all these things that, there might be politics involved. So it has nothing to do with your skill, has nothing to do with you potentially, but as an entrepreneur, you got instant control over that. And so I really love that feeling, and I was hooked from there.
You're like, I want more of this. So let's kind of boil it all down. If there were 3 shifts that you could identify for the dualpreneur or the parallelpreneur, I finally got it right, what would those 3 shifts look like? Like I kind of have them floating around in my head, but let's like get real clear about what those shifts are.
Yeah. So kind of making the transition. Well, number one, it's making sure you know what you want, like really like diving into what you want and not being afraid of that. So like all the imposter syndrome, like letting all that go. And like you said, just starting from somewhere, but knowing what you want. For me, my whole thing was I knew that if I could replace the system that created my income, I don't need to build $1 million business up front. Right. Like I need to, do this and free up my time, and then I can do more. So like identify what is the thing that you want. The second thing is, okay, now that I know what I want, what's the most, what's the path that's going to not just get me there the fastest, but get me there like in a sustainable way. So really thinking about like, what is my path to profit? Because there's a bunch of stuff you could potentially do. Like you could, in an information marketing space, you can coach, you can build courses, you could speak, you can write, you could blog, you can
all of that.
Like there's like 20 different, but you have to figure out. For me, I actually, ironically, building BSN, I actually did less speaking, during that period personally, because, I needed ways that I could generate income while I was, working for someone else. It was still things going. So we were creating products. We launched a membership in 2018, all of those types of things. So I wanted to make sure that I could do some work out of season, like when I'm not at work, but then have that continuously draw money. So like figure out your path to profit. So, know what your goal is, figure out your path to profit. And then 3 is, simply, like you said earlier, don't let perfection stand in the way of progress. I think that is the biggest thing. I tell our speakers all the time, and the folks I work with a little more closely in our program, like the first iPhone sucked. Like,
isn't that the truth? Yeah,
it was horrible.
Nobody wanted it because they couldn't trust it.
Couldn't trust it. Minimum functionality compared to, but it was still like innovative and groundbreaking for its time. But it's like everybody wants to come out the gate with an iPhone 11, like, or whatever number we're on right now. Like,
I think it is 11.
Focus on the first iteration. Wendy, do you remember the AOL disc that used to come out? When,
absolutely. Like, what was it? $9.99 or something like that. You got the disc and you downloaded AOL, and AOL is no longer around.
It's not
like that. Yeah, not like that. But yeah, I remember that.
I'm
young enough to remember that.
So remember how they had the disc and it was like AOL 1.0, and then you had is what seemed like 3 weeks later you get another disc in the mail like, hey, 2.0, we've upgraded, and here's 3.0 and 4.0 and 4.5. Like there's all these, and then so in business that's called iteration. It's called taking an initial idea, getting a proof of concept, and then making it just a little bit better. But until people whip out their credit card and swipe it, you don't know if an idea has merit. So why spend all this time and energy on something that's
trying to make it perfect?
Exactly. Yeah. So that'd be the third thing is, making sure get out of the perfection mindset and just like go sell something. Go make your $5 product. Go make your $10 product, and then if that works, okay, swing for the fences and do what you need to do to hit that goal.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break, Brian, and we're going to come back with Profitable Wisdom. That's a segment that my viewers and listeners really enjoy. So we'll be right back.
Awesome.
How do you create sustainable success in your business? It means that you're focused on creating a message for your most ideal client that magnetizes them to you. They're clamoring to work with you because of the messaging you have that shares with them your ability to solve their problem. It also means that you're working daily, weekly, and monthly on the right actions to impact your bottom line profits. Yeah, you want to increase them, but you've got to focus on moving away from the energy drainers and the time wasters to work with people that you are clearly designed to support in your business.
It also means elevating your sales game. You've got to be really good at selling if you're in business, and you've got to know the right way to step into your sales game and elevate it so that you're authentic and true to who you are, and you're able to really and truly solve the problem your client presents when he or she comes to you. I'm Wendy Y. Bailey, known as your Income Acceleration Mentor, and I'm so excited that I'm going to be delivering another Income Acceleration Day, and you're invited. It's a virtual group coaching intensive designed specifically for people in the transformation space, like coaches and speakers and industry experts and marketplace influencers and CEOs and entrepreneurial leaders and consultants, all working on making a difference in the lives of people. Maybe it's in their business, maybe it's in their personal lives. It's all about transforming the people you serve. It's virtual, no traffic, no travel. And when we get together, we roll up our sleeves and we create that messaging that you're really looking for. We also look at what your income producing activities are. We get rid of the energy drainers and time wasters in your business. It's also about understanding and identifying multiple streams of active and passive income so that when you focus on the right things, you know exactly what your bottom line is going to look like. And then finally, we're going to do what we need to do to elevate your sales game. It's a must. It's easy. I promise you're going to love wearing the new sales game that you have going forward. Income Acceleration Day is happening soon, and I'd love for you to join me. Go to www.incomeaccelerationday.com and get ready, because it's all about accelerating your income quickly, growing your bottom line profits so that you can create the sustainable success you desire in your business too. See you there.
Wendy Y here, and I want to extend my personal invitation to you to join the Profitable Coaching Society. It's a growing community of coaches, speakers, industry experts, and marketplace influencers just like you. Join the after party to connect with guests so you can continue the dialogue. They're waiting in the society to greet you. When you join, you're going to receive my special gift, the ultimate guide to profitable coaching conversations. Go to www.profitablecoachingsociety.com, and I'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Penelope Jane Smith, and you are tuned in to the Profitable Coaching Conversations show with Wendy Y. Bailey. Like, comment, review, and subscribe now so you're notified when the next episode goes live.
Okay, and we're back. We've been talking with Brian Oles of the Black Speakers Network. And, you know, we're living right now in a time, Brian, where COVID-19 is running rampant throughout the world. And I know it's made an impact, particularly in the U.S. because of, you know, not having the readiness to deal with it and not really knowing what was coming and not totally understanding it. And even with the testing, not understanding how to treat it. So what are 3 things you suggest to the dualpreneur or the parallelpreneur to step into speaking full time in the time of COVID-19 and racial unrest?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. You know, one of the first things I did when this started when we started to feel the effects of the closures, and you know, the NBA announced that they would stop holding games early March of that time, is you know, I put out an article on LinkedIn, I think, about you know, tips for entrepreneurs or speakers specifically on you know, building their business in a COVID time. The interesting thing about marketing and branding is that even as external situations change, the fundamental truths tend to always be the same. And for speakers, one of the things that we constantly, so we have a model that we follow in Black Speakers Network. And so it's called the 5 M's. And so with every speaker, with every piece of content that we're working on, we're always helping encourage speakers to get clarity on their mission, their message, marketing, how to monetize, and how to manage their speaking business. So those are
very nice. Love that.
5 pillars. You like it?
And love that.
And so within that, the fourth M is monetize. And so as speakers, I think the biggest misconception that folks come into our industry with is that, I need to, get paid speaking engagements. So by paid, that's, hey, I need to find someone who will fly me out, put me in a hotel, slip a check in my pocket for $2,500, $5,000, $10,000. And that's how I make the bulk of my money as a speaker. Meanwhile, in reality, the market doesn't reflect that at all. In fact, the vast majority of speaking opportunities aren't compensated opportunities. They are just opportunities to be able to get in front of your ideal audience. And so you can be paid as a speaker two ways. You can be paid from an organization, i.e. meeting planner, or you can be paid by your audience directly. And when you're paid by your audience directly, by the way, it doesn't have to be the same day that you speak. Like if you capture their contact information, if you, put an offer out there, a lead magnet where they can stay in contact with you, if you have offer value, then, there's a concept in marketing referred to as a lifetime value of a lead or a lifetime value of a customer. And so all of that to say that in the time of COVID, it's a really interesting time to be able to dig in on the fundamentals of how the structure of a healthy speaking business should look anyway. And every speaker should be looking for additional ways to, monetize their message, additional ways to serve their audience outside of, just collecting a speaker's fee. And most of those involve some type of digital delivery, courses, webinars, coaching, opportunities to create membership programs, whatever that's going to look like based on your area of interest. The end result is the same. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. So COVID really has just, for some people, accelerated that that ability because of necessity, and for others who are already doing that, honestly, Wendy, why this is a time where in the circles that we've seen, digital marketing landscape, we've seen people make more money, more profit. In those
I knew you were going to say that because it's just so true. The person who's out there who's thinking, I can't make money right now because of COVID, you have a limiting belief that you need to get rid of. You need to shatter it because it's just not true.
Yeah, it's not true at all. And even traditional brick and mortars, you would be surprised. I mean, everything from tutoring companies that didn't have a digital presence before, they figured out ways to make it happen. So
sure they did.
That's just the thing. So I think, number one is, you should be doing, you should be thinking about these things anyway. I think number two is in times of unrest, of times of crisis, this is an opportunity as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, and as a leader. This is an opportunity to amplify your voice. Look, we're in a time in history where particularly Black speakers, your message may be more important than ever. And certainly you're being extended opportunities, national opportunities to be on platforms, to be able to share your thoughts, your perspective, and why your message may be able to kind of cut through the noise now more so than any other time in history. So that's just number two, like leaning into like what's going on and making sure that you're visible enough and consistent enough to be able to do that. And I think the third thing, as we're just thinking about COVID, is realizing that we were already due for a recession. On average in the US, we experience a recession every 10 years. So it's not like, it wasn't coming. So, but here's the deal. You have a choice. You can decide to super serve your audience and be that person that's while everybody's like running away, you can run toward, you can lean in. I've been on more one-on-one phone calls with people. We in BSN, one of the first things we did was we didn't raise our fee. We had a standard membership, but we added a new component. So now every member of our community got a 30-minute virtual keynote opportunity that they could start immediately. I created the form. here you go, sign up. And now we got virtual keynotes going 3 times a day. And so just thinking about how to be more creative is key.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brian. It really, really is. So let's jump into the profitable wisdom segment. These are questions that I ask every guest on every episode. It's because they're so pivotal in the learning and the understanding and the growth of the listeners and the viewers. So let's jump in.
Yeah.
Who has had the greatest influence on you in your life?
Yeah. So do we just answer or do we expand on a little?
Yeah, you can answer and expand. I want you to get your whole answer out there, Brian. We need to hear from you.
All right, cool. I just want to follow the format. So yeah, so I would say, Craig Valentine, there's a lot of people that go into this message, but from a professional standpoint, Craig Valentine, he is a professional speaker, 1999 world champion of Toastmasters. He was one of the first Black speakers. He's tall like me. He's like 6'3", used to play basketball for Towson. He's from Maryland, lives in Columbia. So he was one of the first people that I saw that made me realize, wow, like I could actually do this. And there are people that look like me that are doing this. So Craig has been insanely influential. And now we actually just had him on a webinar a few weeks ago. He was talking about how to sell without annoying people in the BSN community.
Nice.
Just an incredible master, incredible storyteller. Just it's almost like when you watch when you watch an incredible athlete step into the arena, or when you're watching the Olympics and you just see somebody just like dominate that space, and you're like, that's incredible. That's a lot of talent. And yes, it might be some talent, but you find those people who, like Craig, who are just dedicated to mastering that craft, like hours and hours by themselves, mastering the art and the science and the business of speaking. So he's had a major influence on me.
Yeah, it sounds like you have, just based on our earlier parts of our conversation, you've definitely aspired to the standard of excellence that he has shown you. Demonstrated to you. So I applaud you for that, because it's making a difference. It's made a difference for sure. So what's the best business advice you've ever received, Brian?
Yeah, so that's pretty easy. So Dr. George Fraser is pretty much a staple.
Dr. Fraser, yeah.
He's incredible. He wrote the foreword to the Speak Up book, which is our first book that I did, in collaboration with other folks. But the thing he said,
anthology, right?
Yes. 35 other members participated. But the best business advice actually came from him in that, because he said, and we talked about systems earlier, and I talked about, income placing the systems. I was really inspired by him, because he said, ideas are good, but systems are better. Everybody, like, ideas are essentially worthless until they get put into a mechanism to be able to deploy those ideas in a productive way. And so for us in BSN, I'm very focused on systems. I'm very focused on relationships, and I'm very focused on community. That's really like our pillars. And so ultimately everyone, and just for example, earlier you were talking about the unrest, and now we see like the net effect of that is, places saying, a re-emergence of Buy Black, making sure that, we can do that. So we could say that, like, Buy Black, for example, is an idea. And it sounds nice. It sounds good, support Black entrepreneurs, pretty basic. But how do you do that? Like, if you don't have a system, if there's no directory, if there's no platform, you can do one-click shopping on Amazon and get the stuff in 2 days. Like, who do you know that's Black? You can do that. So, like, until we have our own systems that we could, like he said, incorporate in order to facilitate the exchange of ideas, goods, and services, nothing will change. And that's one of the pillars of Black Speakers Network.
Awesome. So what's the largest single sale you've ever made in your business? How much was it? What were the circumstances around it?
Yeah, so the largest single day sale this actually was at Dr. Fraser's conference, and that was the
FraserNet.
FraserNet PNC conference. So it wasn't a lot. It was like $5,000. But It was last year, because I left my full-time job April 12th of 2019 after 11 years. And so I had invested $1,000 to be at his conference as a vendor, which was like one of the, I was like $1,000, like why? And
that's a lot of money. Yeah.
At the time, like now we do sponsorships like that all the time, but it's like, then I was like, that was in June. I left in April. So it was a stretch, let's put it that way. And when I got there, we sold so many annual memberships. It immediately dawned on me, wow, because people are there. There are certain, and those tickets to that conference aren't cheap, by the way.
No, they're not. It's a great conference, though. I've been to it 2 years.
It is excellent, and people are there to spend. People are there to invest in themselves. They're there to. So that's the reason. So yeah, that was a circumstance, and it was awesome. And then
did you do anything to celebrate?
I had a really nice dinner while I was there. Like,
you're the second person who said I had a really nice dinner. I mean, what is it about dinner? I love it, but what is it about dinner?
Was the other person a guy?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
it was. I hadn't thought about it until you said that, but it absolutely was a guy. Yeah. I think that's hilarious. Yeah. It's the simple things, right? It
is a simple thing. And also, too, just to be honest, Wendy, while there's not a lot, I'll say, you know, I'm very motivated to, you know, continue to build wealth and stuff like that. But I'm at a point where it's like, you know, if you got a house, you know, you have a bigger house. Like I have a car, you can get a better car. You know, it's not like I need a lot more stuff. I'm actually trying to get rid of stuff and be more minimalistic. But so I really crave like experiences and stuff like that. So getting a great meal while we're in Houston at a restaurant that I've never been to is a great experience.
And that's a big deal, huh?
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So sometimes it's easy. We think I've been in business for 18 years and you've been in business as a full-time entrepreneur going on 2 years.
Yeah.
There's always this sense at times that you want to give up. You're just like, I'm done. You know, I'm not doing this anymore. It's over. During those times, what thoughts did you have and what did you do to sort of get through those tough times of when you thought about giving up?
Yeah. So actually that's, I mean, you will be challenged and I've been challenged.
It's a given. 18 years later, it still happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, it's kind of like you look at my worst day in business over full time and also while I was at work, my worst day still doesn't compare to the number one thing I wanted, which was the freedom, flexibility, and control. So people, you have unemployment and then you have unemployable. Like my goal is to be like
unemployable.
Like there's no person like I want to work for. And actually I've gotten several, it's funny, my LinkedIn, you were talking about LinkedIn earlier, like I wasn't in one of those roles where, you know, a lot of people really weren't checking for me necessarily to poach me away from the companies and stuff that I work for. But since I've been out, like I've gotten several job offers. I've gotten, I just turned down a contract, like a consulting contract that was like a couple $1,000s a day. And I'm like, what, why? And it's like, you have to stay, you know, like focused on the thing that matters most. And sometimes we get so seduced by other like opportunities and you end up so far away from the thing that you actually want. So if I had a superpower, it's to like, you know, stay blinded. I mean, I'm not, I see the headlines, I see what's going on in the world, coronavirus, you know, people are getting hired, fired, whatever, but it's kind of like, you know, you gotta have,
I got my blinders on.
And one of the things that I recommend for anybody that's working on that is all my stuff goes in like OneNote. So like OneNote's like my notebook. It doesn't matter what you use, but I like OneNote because I can pull it up on my phone. I can write on the computer. And then OneNote, I actually have I have one section just dedicated to me. So it has like the places I want to travel to, the people I want to visit, the family members, like the experiences I want to create. And so like that list really just looking back at that, I'm like, okay, here's
keeps
what
you
I'm
motivated.
Yeah, it keeps me motivated and it keeps me focused.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I really, really do. So last question, what is your greatest personal accomplishment outside of your business?
Yeah, so out like completely outside of BSN. So for me,
I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Well, maybe not. Like I think I've done a lot of things. Like I'm the 1999 Baltimore City tennis champion in the novice division. But that's
all right now. That's good.
but that's not what I'm proud of. Like what I'm most proud of is actually related to like my family because
okay.
And we haven't talked about my family in this conversation, but I'm the youngest of two. I have one older brother. He's 13 years older than me.
Wow. Okay, that's a long stretch.
It's a stretch, Wendy. Why? So it's like I have what I call pseudo single child syndrome. So it's kind of like I grew up kind of feeling like an only child, even though I'm not. And so like my biggest accomplishment outside of business has really just been the relationship and the time that I've been able to like spend with my mom. My grandfather, I remember my grandfather and my grandmother were major influences in my life. Like I would spend every weekend at their house, hanging out. My grandfather taught me how to drive and all of that. And so, one of the biggest regrets that I had, even when I was, working in my early career, is that I didn't get an opportunity to spend more time with them because I was like so focused on just like building myself and, getting the money. So like now, like I can hang out like anytime I want to, and my mom, it's a great thing to, be able to support her and, spend the time because that's the one thing that you really ultimately like can't get back. So to me, that's been the biggest thing. And, I think that it's something that I wouldn't, ever trade.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, if you are really driven, you can lose sight of what's really important. And I just think it's fabulous, Brian, that you're clear on, I'm not trying to get a bigger car, bigger house. I'm trying to, reduce what's going on in my world so that I can focus on experiences. That's wisdom. I mean, really, that's wisdom. And I have a son that's a little bit younger than you. And so when I look at you, I kind of see him and I hear you talk about things that I've tried to say to him, and he's getting some of them. He's just 30, but he's getting some of it. My hope and my prayer is that into his 30s, he'll be like, I want to get experiences. I'm not trying to get a bigger car. I'm not trying to get a bigger house. I'm not trying to, do all of those things. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. There are a lot of people out there, and unfortunately, I've heard too many of them talk about the younger generation and what you guys aren't doing. I think you really are the exception. You're doing a lot of great things, so just keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want you to share your parting thought and tell viewers where they can go and get a special gift from you. Sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Are you ready to elevate your sales game so you can add some zeros to your bottom line? Backed by popular demand is Supersize Your Selling, the 7-day sales challenge for coaches, speakers, industry experts, and marketplace influencers. Get ready to grow confident in your selling. Practice selling with grace and ease. Discover how to convert more ideal clients. Shatter your sales fears. Overcome objections effortlessly. Activate income acceleration in your business. This activation challenge features daily bursts of content, easy to complete assignments, sales coaching with none other than yours truly, Wendy Y, downloadable sales script, ongoing accountability and support. It's because it is designed to help you win. Sign up now at www.supersizeyourselling.com. That's www.supersizeyourselling.com, and we'll see you there. Are you a coach, speaker, industry expert, or marketplace influencer who's ready to take your business to the next level? That means more time, more money, more clients, and lots more options, not just in your business, but in your life as a whole. I'm wendyybailey, known as your Income Acceleration Mentor, and I want to extend my personal invitation to you to join me and my amazing guests as we tap into sales and marketing insights to help you grow your business and ultimately your bottom line.
It's easy to get caught up in the marketing side of it because marketing typically is more fun.
Yeah.
And
find businesses and opportunities that are going to bring you joy.
Saturday and Sunday was prime time. Lunchtime was prime time. So while everybody else is going to work, hanging out with their coworkers, trying to figure out what happened last night on Monday Night Football, I was making phone calls, I was responding to email, like I was, trying to build a business. So I had.
My personal motto is by giving what I have, God is always going to give me what I need.
And if you were to ride in my car, you were paying for the gas.
I love it. Tune in to Profitable Coaching Conversations at www.profitablecoachingconversations.com. Okay, and we're back, and we've been talking about really what it looks like to move from being a full-time employee to being a dualpreneur to finally becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And Brian, you've just been such a delight to talk with and to share your insight about being a speaker and what that has meant for you and sort of how you serve the speaking community. I know you've got a gift for everyone. Would you share that gift? Tell us what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love for everybody. One of the biggest challenges that I faced when I went out on the path to figure out the speaking business is that I just felt like there were so many different pieces of advice and too many things to focus on. Do I write a book? Do I create a signature talk first? How do I price my speaking fees? How do I get on a webinar? Like, there's so many things. So that 5M model that I mentioned to you earlier on Wendy Y has been our guiding light for everything. And so one of the things that we knew was necessary is that to put that into an easy format for anybody can get their hands on, and a book is the best way to do that. And so I want to give a gift of the Speak Up book that came out last year for us. It was #1 on Amazon in multiple categories, and it's the Speak Up Ultimate Guide to Dominate the Speaking Industry. I have a physical copy of it right here. So it looks
nice, like very nice.
And thank you so much. As I mentioned, Dr. George Frazier and Les Brown are bookended. Les Brown did the afterword, and Dr. Frazier did the foreword. And so I want to give you the e-version copy of this book. You can get it for free. We'll send you the link there. But basically, the most important thing I want you to know is that this book is the blueprint. Like, if you're somewhere and you're like, wow, like, what do I do next? Like, I want to know how to get into the speaking industry. This book covers 35 chapters on what to do next, structured around those 5 M's, which again is getting clarity on your mission, your message, your marketing, how to monetize and manage your speaking business. So you're going to learn from A to Z, at least the first steps on how to get started. So if you are stuck, then this is the book. And one thing I love is, Dr. Frazier actually wrote this in his foreword. He said, this book has the wisdom that he wished he had when he first started speaking. So absolutely, that's a free gift to you, and enjoy it, and definitely looking forward to hearing some of the success stories of implementing the strategies that are in there.
Thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers and listeners. If there's one thought that you want, because you said a whole lot of things that have offered wisdom and insight for, up and coming speakers and established speakers as well. Is there one thought that you'd like for everyone to kind of take away from our conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So it actually kind of ties into our tagline as a company, which is, speak up, which is where the book title came from. Speak up, your audience awaits. And so I'm going to encourage you to speak up, because, your audience is waiting for you. And really what that boils down to is that there are people right now hurting. We talked about the civil unrest. We talked about, COVID-19. But even before that started or was amplified, there are people right now that have no idea how they're going to get out of their financial situation, have no idea how they're going to repair their relationship. They are struggling to, get to their next career at work, or trying to figure out if they should even be in the career that they're in. And fill in the gap for any number of issues that you have the solution to. But as long as that knowledge stays in your head and not out into the world, then it's of no service to anyone else. And so I'm going to encourage you to speak up, because your audience is literally waiting for you. And you may be thinking, well, there's someone else already speaking about leadership. You got John Maxwell, you got somebody else already motivating people. You got E.T. and Les Brown, but they aren't going to move until they hear from you. They're waiting for your message packaged with your story, with your expertise and your perspective, to be able to say, okay, now I get it. And so that's where your audience is literally waiting for you. And the solution, the thing that comes so easy to you, the thing that you are like, wow, you can pretty much do this in your sleep. That solution is literally the thing that somebody out there is praying for. So my prayer for you is that you continue to use your voice to speak up through whatever platforms make the most sense to you, to make sure that you can connect to the audience that you're called to serve.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been great, Wendy Y. I'm definitely excited for you. And thank you for creating such an incredible platform. And anytime you need me, you know where to find me.
Awesome. I like hearing that. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to go to profitablecoachingsociety.com and join the after show and the conversation there, and get additional support from Brian. Take care.
Thanks so much for tuning into Profitable Coaching Conversations with Wendy Y. Bailey. Be sure to join us at the after party at www.profitablecoachingsociety.com. We'll see you next time for more sales and marketing wisdom and insight from Wendy Y. and her amazing guests. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you know when new episodes are posted.